So if you're living and working in Canada and you're paying into CPP, which stands for Canadian Pension Plan, how do you actually opt out of CPP so that you can stop paying into it? Well, unfortunately, there aren't many options for doing that, which I'm going to cover in this video. But first off, what is CPP? Again, it stands for Canada Pension Plan. But what it is basically is a social insurance program that's funded by employees and employers. And those contributions are designed to be given back to Canadians when they retire. And then in addition, there are some disability benefits that are offered through the CPP program. So if you want to learn more about how the program works and what it is and how much you have to pay and why, I will leave a link in the video description below so that you can read more up on the CPP program. But now if you're wanting to opt out, how do you do that? Well, one way to do that is if you're living and working in Quebec, because they don't have CPP, they have something similar called QPP. So you're not really getting out of it, you're just, paying through a slightly different program. Another way you can opt out of CPP is once you reach the age of 65, you can actually opt out of it if you want to. So that doesn't really give many people many options, and to be honest, there just aren't many options for opting out of CPP, but I am going to cover one in this video. So the way that you can potentially opt out of CPP if you're living and working in Canada is to start your own business, and to start your own business as a corporation. So rather than operating as a sole proprietorship or in a partnership, you can create a corporation and then run your business activity through that corporation. And then when you're paying yourself from the corporation, rather than making yourself an employee and putting yourself on payroll, you can pay yourself out by what's called dividends. So when you're running your business through a corporation, the revenue goes into the corporation, the expenses go out, and then you have to choose what you want to do with the money left over. Do you want to just leave the money in there and just pay the corporate tax rate and just leave it there? Do you want to put yourself on payroll as an employee and pay yourself a regular wage, where the corporation is withholding provincial and federal income tax, as well as withholding and matching CPP and EI? Or do you want to just take out those dividends basically from the net profits of the business? Or do you want to do a combination of them? You can leave some money in there, you can pay yourself a salary and put yourself on payroll, and you can also take out some dividends. But if your goal is to avoid paying CPP and ultimately opt out of CPP, the way to do that would be to run your business activity through the corporation and only pay yourself in dividends. Do not pay yourself as a salaried employee, because when you pay yourself as a salaried employee, you're earning employment income, and employment income is subject to CPP contributions. So you, the human individual, are paying CPP, and then the corporate entity is actually matching your CPP contributions, as the corporation is technically your employer. But with collecting dividends, dividends are not employment income, they're investment income. And investment income is not subject to CPP. Therefore, if you're only paying yourself in dividends, that income is not subject to CPP, therefore you do not have to contribute to CPP. So you could set up this business as a corporation, conduct all your business activity and financial activity of the business through the corporation, only pay yourself dividends, and that would be ultimately the easiest way to opt out of paying CPP. And now I know that doesn't work for a lot of people, but again, there just aren't many options for opting out. This is probably the easiest way for most people. So if you really want to opt out of CPP, you can go about doing it this way, but keep in mind there are downsides. Of course, if you're not contributing to CPP, you're not eligible to receive it later in life. So for some people, maybe this is a good thing. They feel like they can manage their money really well and invest in like private pensions. But for other people, it's really good to have CPP because, again, you do get that money in retirement. Another thing to be aware of is if you do set things up like this and you're only taking dividends as income from your corporation, dividends also do not create RRSP contribution room, because RRSP contribution room in Canada is calculated based on your earned income, which is basically your self-employment or employment income. So because dividends are investment income, they don't contribute to that. So by going this route, you're avoiding paying CPP, but you're not creating RRSP contribution space for yourself. So just something to be aware of. Again, it might make sense for some people and they might be really motivated to do this. In other cases, it wouldn't make sense to do this, or not a great option for other people. So hopefully this video was useful. If so, please click like and feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel here, where I currently have about 270 videos. They cover business management and business startup topics, and many of them are based on Canadian business topics and also Saskatchewan-based business topics, which is where I am located.